Hello guys, Joe with BitRage. So I want to jump into Bitcoin here and talk about where we are in the structure, because I think we're at a very interesting area where we can start to see some sort of reversal very soon, and I wanted to show you what I'd be looking at to get involved in that. So if you're looking here on the weekly chart, you can see we have this structure. It's just a descending falling wedge essentially, and so we have some momentum to the downside here on the weekly chart. Daily chart here, we can see this structure is very clear and it's looking very nice as far as how it played out. So you can see we had the move down, we had a correction of sorts, it sold, we have another correction, it sells, we have another correction. So what we have here is a move down, one big continuation, where this is the move down, this is the big continuation, and we're seeing the move down now. We didn't quite get to the trend line there, but we're very, very close. So essentially we have one, we have two, this is the third point on this trend line. We're very close to that area. We had a very nice ascending channel there. It sells, some very nice opportunities to sell. If you're able to do that, you have a broker that you trust to actually sell and margin trade. But just looking on the daily chart here, you can see this sell doesn't come as any shock or any surprise. You would expect that based on the structure, and that's what we've been talking about here for the past several months. We're really talking about this playing out, and it did. But you have to be aware that nobody knows that, this isn't the correction that sells and makes it all the way down to, let's say, here. Now, you can't say that's definitely the correction that's going to do that because nobody knows that's going to happen. What we can say is we had a move down. This is a correction. We can anticipate the sell, but it doesn't have to move all the way down to, let's say, here. And that's why it's important whenever you're looking at these steeper corrections like this to be aware when it gets to the low of the pattern, because what can very well happen, as you see here, is it gets to about the low and it starts to move off. Now we just got another correction and it sold, but you have the same thing. It sells, we get to the low, and it moves back up. And you have to be very careful once you get to that area that you're managing it effectively. So you can see here we have this correction here, the sell. It breaks this low, which is interesting. And then what happens now is going to really give us an indication of whether this is going to creep its way back up, give us a slightly bigger structure, or if we get a more compact continuation and then move to the downside. So 4-hour chart here, you can see it's looking to me like it's an undeveloped pattern. It's part of a bigger pattern. You can see we have that type of formation. We're starting to get this rejection. And so what I could see happening very easily is this moving its way down. And then we get this kind of structure before we actually commit to the bigger sell. And this can develop out a little bit, but I'm looking at this as a very strong possibility to see a continuation structure just based on where we are within the pattern. And then if you look at a target, if we did get this more of a defined continuation that is very clear, we could see this moving all the way down here to outer structure. We'd be looking at about 4,500, 4,600, that area. That is going to be a very interesting area to look at for a potential reversal. Because if you look at what we had previously, we had this one, we had two touches. This would be the third point on this trend line on this structure. It would be very likely to see some sort of indication that will move to the upside from here. Now, it is possible that this can give us more of a descending corrective channel, kind of like what we had here, and then break the trend line, but it's just very corrective, and then still move to the upside. So you have to be aware of what this can give us. I wanted to show you this very quickly. So if it does come in contact with that area, how would you look to see that as a reversal? So this was a very nice example. So if you look at it, we have the big retracement, right? So it gets down to this area, huge retracement. This is the part that gives us an indication that we're going to continue. So we have the retracement, a correction, gets to the double bottom area, and then it takes off. That was a very nice structure to be looking at, and you can look at this structure as well. So just basically a descending channel, and then it takes off to the upside. We had a flag there to buy, and then it gave us more of an ascending. It sells, gives us a steeper continuation structure there. But the important thing to keep in mind with this is you have to give it some time to play out. These structures and these patterns, they take a little bit of time, and you can't force your opinion on it, you can't force your time frame on it. It's going to take a little bit of time to develop. You know, we've been looking at this since August, and it's just now starting to actually play out with some real momentum, and that happens. You have to be very patient when you come into the market. But I think it's very, very possible and very likely, looking at the structure, we get some sort of reaction here. And if there is going to be a reaction and a move to the upside, it would happen here, very, very likely. So right about 4,500, 4,600, that area right on outer structure would be a very nice area to look for a potential reversal. I would couple that with a descending channel, kind of like what we've had in the past. If we get that, it'd be a very nice area to actually turn around and go long on Bitcoin. It'd be one of the few opportunities we've had to really take a clear long since August. There really hasn't been a ton of decent opportunities to go long on Bitcoin since then. It's just been one big correction, and just looking at where it came from, it's one big correction to move lower. So I did want to look at this on the 1 hour chart here and just show you just how clear this structure was. It's very, very nice. You can see we had this ascending channel. It just moves up. It's a parallel ascending channel. It doesn't get any clearer than this. See the move down right on the trend line. We get this correction, the retrace here. That would be your entry point if you were to take this. Sells, we get a correction, and then it moves down. And this is an interesting point here. So if you've watched us for a while, you know that we talk a lot about corrections and looking at descending and ascending corrective periods within the market, looking at the behavior of price action. If you just take this for what it looks like, it looks like just a messy descending structure, right? But then it breaks with momentum. Well, you could be looking at that and say, well, this pattern didn't play out the way you would expect. But you have to understand that what is most important within any market, within any structure, is the higher time frame pattern, the higher time frame structure. In this case, we just have one big continuation structure. Comes from an ascending structure that sold with impulsive nature. So it gives us that indication that if there was a reason that this would continue, it would be now. So it just kind of trickles its way down. We get a continuation, a messy continuation here, moves back up. This isn't the clearest and the cleanest structure to trade, don't get me wrong. But it breaks to the downside because this structure is taking over, and it just makes sense, right? So it aligns with the structure. It makes sense from a tactical point of view. So currently, I can see us just creating that bigger structure. If you looked at it here, you could see it as, we had the move down and the big retrace, right? So you could look at it as this as a correction to then move higher. But as you can see, it just kind of creeps its way up, gets that bigger move to the upside in this candle here, and then rejects and starts to move back down. So we're getting more of this kind of structure. So I think it's very possible and very likely that we get some sort of bigger continuation. It doesn't have to be as big as this, but we get some sort of clear continuation structure. Is it possible that it sells from here and then just continues to this area? It is, but what is more likely and more probable is to see a bigger continuation. Just looking at, past price action, how Bitcoin does behave. Typically, you're going to see this bigger structure before then does continue. So that's the structure. That's what I see as the developments for Bitcoin and what we can look at for the future. I think it's very possible we're going to see some sort of move up on Bitcoin here in the near future. Now, nobody knows whether that's going to take off and really move to the upside with strength. I think based on just where the market is, it is possible to get that reversal, but don't count on this, moving all the way back up to 20,000 within a week, right? So we could get just a move up and then break a little bit and then start the move back to the downside. Nobody knows what's going to happen from here, but it is looking very good to see 1, 2, 3, a reversal here, a rejection, and then a move to the upside. Again, if we're going to get a reversal, if we're going to see some solid move to the upside, it's very likely going to happen here at an area like this on structure, if we're going to see that happen. Can this just continue selling through? It could. That is possible, but I think that is less likely as well, just based on the fact that the market moves in cycles anyway. So you'll get a move down, and then you'll get some sort of move that is more towards the upside, even if it's corrective, before you then get the indication, okay, it's going to come back to the downside. So either way, I'd be looking for some sort of reversal here at that area. It's going to be very, very nice if we do get that. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can capitalize on this move, and then look for the long if we do get that indication. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate your support as always. Take care now.